Dear brothers and sisters, on the centenary of the establishment of the Diocese of Częstochowa. Częstochowa was undoubtedly a historical figure, not just a literary or folk fiction. A number of sites directly linked to his life have survived to this day. These include, above all, the town of Mirów, the Częstochowa plain on the Warta River, the old surrounding roads, local hills, and other landmarks of the Częstochowa landscape, which are the subject of Częstochowa stories. Pilgrims headed to Jasna Góra would look from afar for the tall tower, which was often hidden behind forests and buildings. This may be why the city formed 200 years ago from Częstochowa, and Old Częstochowa was named Częstochowa City. The Jasna Góra icon, known for its miracles, is a symbol of the unity of the Eastern and Western traditions. Its origin lies in Belz, in present-day Ukraine. This image, donated to the Pauline Fathers by Prince Władysław II of Opole, is not only a spiritual treasure but also a testament to a rich history. Father Jan Twardowski wrote that all Our Lady of Częstochowa is miraculous because when we look at her, we are reminded of Poland. One legend says that the image of the Madonna was painted by St. Luke, the evangelist. He is said to have created it on the tabletops used by the Holy Family in Mary's house in Nazareth. The image was then transferred from Jerusalem to Constantinople and later gifted to the Ruthenian prince Lev. Ruthenian chronicles, meanwhile, records that the image of Our Lady and Child reached Lviv from Constantinople via Kiev in 1270. From there, Prince Władysław took it to Poland and gave it to the monks of Jasna Góra, wishing to protect it from desecration by the pagan Tatars. A story from the 14th century tells that during the siege of Bełcz castle, a Tatar arrow falling through a window allegedly struck the Virgin Mary in the neck. On his way from Opole to Silesia, Prince Władysław stopped for a short rest in Częstochowa. It was here, at the foot of Jasna Góra, that Mary revealed to him her will, that she wished to remain there, and so it was. Władysław Opolczyk left the Pauline Fathers at Jasna Góra a painting from Lviv, which depicts the Blessed Virgin Mary holding the child Jesus in her left arm. The Mother of God is turned towards the faithful, while Jesus' face is turned towards the pilgrim, but without fixing his gaze on him. The Madonna's right cheek is marked by 2 lines, the third one cutting the line of the nose. 6 cuts are visible on her neck. The child, dressed in a crimson-colored dress, holds the book in her left hand and raises his right hand in a gesture of blessing. Mary's right hand rests on her breast, pointing to her Son, the Savior of the world. The dominant element of the icon is the gilded halos surrounding the heads of the Mother of God and Jesus, symbols of God the Father. In 1430, valuable votive offerings were stolen from the chapel at Jasna Góra, and the image of the Virgin and Child of Jasna Góra was slashed and broken. According to tradition, the image was found where the Church of St. Barbara now stands. The monks brought the image to Krakow, to the court of King Władysław Jagiełło, who, together with his wife, Queen Jadwiga, founded the oldest part of the chapel of Our Lady at Jasna Góra. King Jagiełło undertook the restoration of the icon. The significant damage necessitated the replacement of the board with with new canvases and the painting of the image. Pieces of the old damaged canvas were left under the new canvas. A lasting trace of the image's destruction are the scars on the face of the Black Madonna, as well as wounds and cuts. As if the Mother of God wanted to tell us that she is the mother and queen of a nation, tortured and tormented for centuries. Just a seventh sword of sorrow pierced her heart at the cross, so now she bears the signs of painful wounds on her Jasna Góra face. Write the Pauline Fathers on the website of the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Jasna Góra. The image of Our Lady, which received papal crowns in 1770 and 1910, is covered by a silver latch from 1723 with an allegorical composition referring to the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Jasna Góra image is renowned for its miracles. Pilgrims from all over the world come here to pray for individual intentions, to ask for healing from illness, the conversion of a loved one, and necessary graces. Marian shrines are usually established at the site of Our Lady's apparition. Mary then left a specific message, which was studied by theologians. Meanwhile, at Jasna Góra, she did not leave messages, but rather reveals herself in an icon venerated by the faithful. The Jasna Góra icon is a point where the Western Church learns the beautiful tradition of the East. Jasna Góra has also witnessed many political turning points. In 1991, during World Youth Day, Pope John Paul II gathered young people from all over the world. Communism fell, borders were opened, and for the first time, young people from beyond the eastern border could come to Our Lady and be covered under her mantle. 125 years ago, the city was developing rapidly near open-pit iron mines. The pious residents also considered the spiritual life of the inhabitants of Częstochowa. The history of Częstochowa Cathedral is a long and complex one. The construction of an arcaded cathedral Basilica of the Holy Family, which lasted from 1901 to 1997. Construction began in 1902 under a permit issued by the Tsarist authorities. Construction of the cathedral was initiated by Father Zygmunt Brzezinski, and the long nave was completed in 1927, while the towers were not consecrated until 1997. The cathedral became the seat of the bishop in 1925. The church was designed in by Konstanty Wojciechowski. He envisioned an impressive structure of monumental dimensions, one of the largest in Poland at the time. The side naves were opened by pointed arcades with quadrangular pillars, ribbed vaults. The pointed arch windows with tracery in the chancel and transept are glazed with stained glass. The walls of the transept, nave, and chancel are supported by flying buttresses decorated with arcades, friezes, and topped with tracery balustrades. The church's roof are steep with triangular gables, divided by blind windows at the front and above the transept. The church was to be 100 meters long, with a nave height of 27 meters and transept with of 46 meters wide, and nave was on 32 meters, and two towers, each approximately 80 meters high. The first Mass was celebrated 6 years later in 1908. The parish of the Holy Family was established at the church in 1917. In 1962, the church was granted the title of minor basilica, and in 1992, it acquired the title of Archcathedral, becoming the seat of the Archbishop of Częstochowa. Style: Gothic revival with classicist elements. Construction: a free-ale church built of brick on a Latin cross plan. Elements: two tall towers at the front, the main altar in the form of a triptych designed by Zygmunt Gawlik, stained glass window by Adam Bunch, organs made in a Krakow factory, burial crypt of the Częstochowa bishops. On Wednesday, October 29, 2025, the main celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Częstochowa Diocese, established by Pope Pius XI's bull Vixdum Polonii Unitas, took place at the Archcathedral Basilica in Częstochowa. The celebrations coincided with the conclusion of the Jubilee of 2025, and Holy Mass was celebrated by Archbishop Antonio Guido Filippazzi, Apostolic Nuncio to Poland. True love in unconditional, Jesus Christ offers you a kind of peace you won't find anywhere else. The certainty that no matter what you face, one day everything will be all right. Speak this day with God and His Mother, the Lady of Częstochowa, to learn how to find this peace through study, prayer, and following the teaching of Jesus Christ. I never polish or embellish what I write. I leave behind a certain roughness and ineptitude that is my characteristic. I have rejected all ornamentation, elaborate rhythms, syntactic inversion, and the euphony of verse in favor of rather bare sentences expressing an attempt to describe what surrounds me. I have lost faith that poetry can mend the world, but the illusion still lingers within me that poetry is an attempt to impose a modicum of order and creates the possibility of communicating with people through recorded emotion. Recalled Zbigniew Herbert 30 years ago. He was born on October 29, 1924 in Lviv. He was the greatest contemporary poet, essayist, and playwright. Be brave if reason fails you. Be brave. In the end, that's all that matters. Julian Tuwim, another poet, in turn wrote in his poem Dark Sky, which I'd like to share with you. How easy it is to become homeless and be left without stars above. How difficult it is to forget the native diamond's depths. How easy it is to reach the heaven of love with a happy flight. How difficult it is then to look into your eyes and believe across the vast starless sky. Where and how far should I sail? How easy, how sweet it was to die for you. Every word that reaches us about the uncomfortable, the homeless, the lepers, is the Son of God passing by. If we let Him pass, we may never be recalled. Unused graces rarely repeat themselves. Whispers ignored do not become screams. Throughout our lives, our hands will reach out empty, devoid of the richest blessing of wisdom and truth, unless they are first used to grasp, as if by the sleeves, the divinity that gives the impression of wanting to bypass us. If victory comes, it will come after the massacre. Through Mary, said the blessed primate of the Millennium of Poland, Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński. What you fear stands just around the corner. What you dread will torment you, but what you believe in will face fear to defeat demons, to realize your victory. The anniversary celebration in Częstochowa coincides with a time of reflection. All Saints' Day is a time of special reflection on the passing of the life. Take care of your loved ones who are still with you. Ensure the financial support when you are gone. The wonderful poet and resident of Częstochowa, Halina Poświatowska, prayed, "When I die, my love, when I die, I will part with the sun and become a long, rather sad object. Will you then embrace me, wrap me in your arms, and repair what cruel fate has broken? I often think of you, I often write you silly letters, in them love and smiles, then I hide them in the stove. The flame sleeps over words. Before it falls, sleep peacefully in the ashes. Looking at the flame, I laugh, I think, what will happen to my heart hungry for love? And you, after all, don't let me die in a world that is dark and cold." Our Częstochowa Jubilee is accompanied by a worldwide meeting. Over 7,000 students and teachers from the 5 continents are participating in the Jubilee of the World of Education, which has begun in Rome. May I be allowed to recall here my young Christian life, which I lived near the Częstochowa Cathedral in the minor seminary, Piotrkowska Street. It was 1976. It all began here in my entire life. Today, therefore, I once again give thanks to God for all this and his greatest teacher, his mother, the Black Madonna, who protects Częstochowa. The Roman Jubilee of the World of Education, organized by the Diocese for Culture and Education together with the Italian Ministry of Education, will last until November 1st under the slogan, "School is Life." The opening ceremony took place on Monday, October 27th, in the Auditorium della Conciliazione. The culmination will be Holy Mass with Pope Leo XIV, who will proclaim St. John Henry Newman a doctor of a church. You don't grow old with young people. It's like keeping your engine running and looking at the world with new eyes, recalled Cardinal Jose Tolentino de Mendonça, prefect of the Dicastery for Culture and Education, opening the anniversary ceremony. Students and teachers from over 300 schools around the world arrived in Rome. The Cardinal called them mayors and ministers of the future. Look up to the stars. Do not let yourselves be trapped by the grayness of screens. Your light will remain if you remain connected to truth, goodness, and beauty, said Cardinal Jose Tolentino de Mendonça. Education is a pilgrimage towards goodness. Italian Education Minister Giuseppe Valditara emphasized that the anniversary is a call to rediscover hope as a pilgrimage toward goodness, in a spirit of courage and fraternity. The aim of the event, he emphasized, is to renew the 7 commitments of the Global Education Pact proposed by Pope Francis. The minister recalled that at the center of education are the human person, the family, hospitality, and solidarity. Valditara appealed for investment in the family and a renewed educational alliance between parents and schools, especially in those areas where they are most vulnerable. He also emphasized the importance of education in the context of international solidarity. Africa lacks 17 million teachers, he recalled, calling for a European mobilization for the right to education. At that moment, my Roman notebook opened for me. Dear brothers and my son, I speak to you after years of silence. My readers, my son, Częstochowa is gone. I rubbed brick dust on my fingers. This is what remains from a great love for my hometowns. I hear your laughter in the garden and the wild spring. The scent of wet leaves draws closer to me, who, not believing in any saving power, I have outlived others and myself. If only you knew what it's like when at night someone suddenly wakes up and asks, hearing a beating heart, what more do you want? Insatiable. Spring, the nightingale sings, children's laughter in the garden, the first pure star opens above the foam of the unplumbed unblown hills above the Varta river, and again a light song returns to my lips, and I am young again, as before in Częstochowa. Reject everything. That's not it. I will neither resurrect nor return. Slept unborn children on a bed of shattered feathers. I will not raise your joined hands from the ashes. Let the cat hounds the deserted cathedral, shining its pupil on the altars. Let the owl may it build its nest on the dead-pointed arch. In the Częstochowa cathedral I swallow soared high and remains imprisoned. It is a sign of new times. The swallow, a black dagger, torn from the wind's chest, a sudden anchor of sadness from an invisible yacht. The cathedral has caught her in a high net of votes, like death, a stone block, like the judgment of the naves and rectangle. The swallow lightning in a dead church, cutting like black scissors. The fear that grips her, the swallow, sister of the storm, morning flying over the heads of people in whom worry wanders. The swallow, a sky sign like an elusive symbol, lured into the cathedral's cold, a warning and a prayer. It will not cut the white silence under a leaden cloud. It will not lower its flight over the meadows with the golden stain. I am terrified by this moment that stole its freedom. The swallow, a black diamond, thrown here by the devil, the eternal spinning to silent torment. Do not experience nest to cursing beauty, to eternal spinning to noiseless torment. Not knowing the nest, not cursing the beauty. Not knowing the nest, not cursing the beauty. C. Stan Boris, song from 1974. My dearest one, allow me one more reflection. I am standing on the precipice. I am standing and I feel the air trembling from no existent words. The sky burns like a wound no one wanted to touch. The sun drowns in a lake of memories and its glow, the last letter of the day. Silence flows heavily, like ash after a prayer, like the trace of lips that prayed to the light. The earth is silent, as if ashamed to breathe. The light that touches me brings no salvation, only heat that remembers the shape of a tear. Where fire meets cloud, something nameless is born, its shadow drinks my fear. I look, and every ray is a nail, every spark a sigh, and only the wind still says that everything has already happened, that everything still burns. And then silence, and the light which doesn't yet know it has gone out. On a scorching white June noon, Częstochowa cats wander among the rubble. Let the window sills of Częstochowa warm themselves again. In his poem Farewell, our Nobel Prize winner Czesław Miłosz conveyed fatherly remarks to his son. Fatherly remarks. I will not return. I want to know what remains after rejecting spring and youth, after rejecting crimson leaves, from which a wave of heat flows into the sultry night, after rejecting song and the scent of wine, oaths and complaints and the diamond's night, at the cry of seagulls, followed by the glow of the black sun, of life, of an apple cut by a flaming knife, what seed will survive? My son, believe me, nothing remains, only the toil of manhood, the furrow of fate on the palm of your hand, only toil, nothing more. Finally, to console the reader's hearts, I would like to tell you about the glorious event from the history of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. On October 29, 1611, the Tsar were buried in Warsaw. What happened to the burial chapel? The Moscow chapel was built by Sigismund III Vaza as a mausoleum for the Shuski Tsars. They were indeed buried there. On July 3rd, 1668, the building came under the care of the Warsaw Dominicans and continued to serve as a prestigious burial site. Then it disappeared. What happened to it? In the heart of a present-day Warsaw on Krakowskie Przedmieście Street stands the Brown Staszic Palace, the seat of the Polish Academy of Sciences. Few passerby know that beneath its foundation lie traces of one of the most magnificent episodes in the history of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It was here, where students and scholars now frequent, that the remains of the Russian Tsars rested for 15 years. To understand how the Orthodox burial chapel of Russian monarchs came to Warsaw, one must go back to the turbulent beginning of the 17th century. In 1610, at Krushino, the forces of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, commanded by Hetman Stanisław Żółkiewski, defeated the superior Muscovite Swedish forces. This was one of Poland's greatest military victories and one of the most humiliating events in Russian history. On October 8, 1610, Polish troops captured the Kremlin. The deposed Tsar Vasily IV Szujski and his family fell into their hands. Shortly thereafter, Szujski officially recognized Prince Władysław Wasa's right to the Russian throne. Tsar Szujski and his brothers Dmitry and Ivan were brought to Warsaw. On October 29, 1611, at the royal castle, the Russian Tsar paid homage to King Sigismund III Vasa. This event, known as the Szujski homage or Russian homage, had a symbolic significance in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The defeated Tsar bowed before the Polish ruler. The prisoners were treated with dignity. Contrary to appearances, the Szujskis were not treated like war trophies. They were kept in good conditions at Gostynin Castle, where they also died one by one, most likely from the plague. The Polish king, mindful of their high status, ordered the construction of a dignified burial place for them. The Moscow Chapel, Latin Sacilium Moscovitarum, the first Orthodox burial chapel in Warsaw. The chapel, built around 1620, stood right on the royal route in the form of the impressive hexagonal tower, a rotunda with 3 stories at the dome. It was intended not only to serve as a mausoleum, but also a reminder of the triumph of the Polish army. Above the entrance was a plaque solemnly proclaiming the glory of the Polish victory and the transience of human fate. He, the King Sigismund III, mindful of the common human fate, ordered their bones to be transferred here and buried under this monument erected for the universal memory of posterity and for the glory of his reign. In 1635, at the concluding peace with Russia, the ashes of the Szujski family were sent back to Moscow with great honors. However, the chapel itself remained and over time transformed into a burial place for other figures. It was eventually incorporated into the structure of the newly built Dominican Church of Our Lady of Victory. On July 3rd, 1668, John II Casimir transferred the chapel of the care of the Dominican observants. The design of the Church of Our Lady of Victory, of which the Moscow Chapel became a part, is attributed to the Tilman von Galmeren, one of the most prominent Baroque architects in Poland. According to legend, it was in this chapel that he was buried after his death in 1706. By the end of the 18th century, the church and monastery had fallen into decline. The church was closed and then demolished, a decision this is attributed to Prince Constantine. Shortly thereafter, the piece of land formerly occupied by the Dominican Observant Church and Monastery was purchased by the aforementioned Father Stanisław Staszic. Between 1823 and 1825, the Staszic Palace was built there, the Classicist headquarters of the Society of Friends of Science. The press at the time reported with a delight on this modern development, completely forgetting the history hidden beneath the building. During the Tsarist partition, somewhat ironically, the Stashis Palace was rebuilt in the Byzantine Russian style, and an Orthodox church was built inside. This was intended to bury the memory of Poland's triumph and the chapel, a symbol of domination over Moscow. But what happened to the chapel? And here begins the greatest mystery. Officially, the Moscow chapel is considered to have been demolished. Let us conclude our reminiscences with our one great thanksgiving for the visible presence of the Christian faith in our social, professional, and personal lives in our land. Mirów, Olsztyn, Konopiska, Blachownia, Kłobuck, Kamyk, Kościelec, Rędziny, villages, for the multitude of graces that have visited Częstochowa city over the past 100 years. In this holy year of hope, now, with the numerous clergy and faithful inhabitants of the Marian city, including the youth of Częstochowa, we wish to thank God in the Holy Trinity for the 100 years of the Diocese in our city, for making the Mother of God a place specially beloved and so beautifully honorated here ad multos annos.